Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa and Associates. For a consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.
Hello, my name is Mary Campbell, legal assistant at the law firm of Figueroa and Associates, and your presenter with week's immigration news. We begin with Republicans at border insist on security. Speaker Johnson raps Biden team for unmitigated disaster. House Speaker Mike Johnson led dozens of Republicans to the border in Texas on Wednesday, January 3rd, saying they got a first-hand look at the devastation of unprecedented illegal immigration and calling the situation an unmitigated disaster. Taking stock of the record-breaking numbers, the lawmakers said they won't accept any major spending deals on Capitol Hill that don't put border security first. As they announced the start of impeachment proceedings against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, one committee chairman labeled him the greatest domestic threat to the national security and the safety of the American people. Justice Department sues Texas over law that will let police arrest migrants who enter U.S. illegally. The Justice Department on Wednesday sued Texas over a new law that would allow police to arrest migrants who enter the U.S. illegally, taking Republican Governor Greg Abbott to court again over his escalating response to border crossers arriving from Mexico. The lawsuit draws Texas into another clash over immigration at a time when New York and Chicago are pushing back on buses and planes carrying migrants sent by Abbott to Democrat-led cities nationwide. Texas is also fighting separate court battles to heat razor wire on the border and a floating barrier in the Rio Grande. But a law Abbott signed last month poses a broader and bigger challenge to the U.S. government's authority over immigration. In addition to allowing police anywhere in Texas to arrest migrants on charges of illegal entry, the law, known as Senate Bill 4, also gives judges the authority to order migrants to leave the country. Meanwhile, in New York, Mayor Adams sues Texas bus companies for transporting migrants to sanctuary cities. New York City Mayor Eric Adams and New York City Corporation Counsel Sylvia O. Haynes Radix on January 4 announced a lawsuit against 17 charter bus and transportation companies that seeks to recoup all costs New York City has incurred providing emergency shelter and services to migrants transported by the charter bus companies, totaling at least approximately $708 million in the last 20 months. Since the spring of 2022, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has admitted to facilitating the transport of more than 33,600 migrants to New York City, without having the companies transporting those migrants pay for the cost of continued care in violation of New York's social services law. The suit seeks to recoup the hundreds of millions of dollars incurred to care for all these individuals, costs moving forward for any of those migrants still in New York City's care, and costs for all those who are transported to New York City from Texas in the future as part of Governor Abbott's plan. Advocates state more political football. Adams' buzzing executive order hurts asylum seekers and NYC. Last week, NYC Mayor Eric Adams issued an executive order that placed limits on how buses of asylum seekers being sent by Texas Governor Greg Abbott could arrive in New York City. Since issuing the order, buses have still arrived at Port Authority, to other parts of Manhattan, and increasingly in New Jersey. Adams is now calling on other local governments around New York City to issue their own similar executive orders. Murad Awade, executive director, New York Immigration Coalition, stated, Greg Abbott is engaged in a political game of one-upmanship with no regard for its human impact. Eric Adams can and must do better than try to beat Abbott at his own bigoted political and inhumane games. It's clear by now that the mayor's executive order has only created further chaos and confusion for newly arriving asylum seekers, as well as throwing them into potentially harmful situations. Instead of advocating for similar measures which will put people's health and well-being in danger, Mayor Adams should be coordinating with local community-based organizations who have already been welcoming new arrivals for over a year at all hours of day, night, and on weekends. The mayor's message should be the same today as it was more than a year ago. NYC will continue to welcome asylum seekers with open arms, as we have always done. In other news, USCIS announces inflation adjustment to premium processing fees. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services on January 2 announced a final rule that will increase the filing fee for Form I-907, Request for Premium Processing, to adjust for inflation. The USCIS Stabilization Act established the current premium processing fees and the authority for the Department of Homeland Security to adjust the premium fees on a biennial basis. After leaving these fees unchanged for the 3 years following the passage of the Act, Department of Homeland Security, DHS now is increasing the premium processing fees USCIS charges for all eligible forms and categories to reflect the amount of inflation from June 2021 through June 2023, according to the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers. DHS will use the revenue generated by the premium processing fee increase to provide premium processing services, make improvements to adjudications processes, respond to adjudication demands, including reducing benefit request processing backlogs, and otherwise fund USCIS adjudication and naturalization services. The fee change will go into effect on February 26, 2024. And finally, tent shelter guards snatched migrant kids' scooters on Christmas Eve. Security guards at the Cavernous Migrant Shelter for Families with Children at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn confiscated toy scooters from children who were playing with their prized new possessions on Christmas Eve, according to videos and eyewitness accounts. Several mothers who spoke with this city described security guards taking mini scooters from 3 different children at around 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve, sparking anger and frustration among parents and fear among children. The city is withholding the women's names because they each said they feared retaliation from staff at the shelter. The children's gifts were later returned by the private contractors who a city spokesperson said acted professionally. Thank you.
Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa and Associates. For a consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.